Leslie believes in lifelong personal learning and teaching. Coaching part-time since 2008, Leslie is passionate about enlightening and empowering others. She makes the most of every opportunity to use her extensive insight into personal condition and principles, and this allows her to guide her clients to discover their magnificence. Fabulous. So Leslie, at age 16, became the world's youngest certified water skiing judge at 16 years old. Can you imagine that? And when the organizers found out that she was only 16, they wanted to revoke her certificate, which I don't think they did. But wow, that is fantastic. To be a water skiing judge at 16, she must have been a great water skier. So Leslie, welcome to the stage.
Good evening, everybody in internet land, and thank you, Lois, very much for that introduction. I appreciate it. It's quite a pleasure to be on a panel with such esteemed speakers, so thank you for this wonderful opportunity. My story is a little bit different tonight. My story starts when I was very young, and my story is similar to many of your stories. Every couple of years, every roughly 7 to 10 years, we pass through a new chapter in our lives. And every time we get into a new chapter, we have to transform ourselves. We have to reinvent ourselves because the behaviors and the thought patterns and the actions that we had in one chapter no longer serve us in another chapter. But it is that moment of transition that is really difficult. I remember a time back shortly after I finished high school. I went into college and I started teaching teachers training. I was doing my third year. I really was struggling. It was not working. Things were not going right. And I sat down and I had a discussion with my dad. I said to him, Dad, this is not working. I don't know what to do, but this is not working. So he says, well, what are you going to do if you don't finish the certification? And it was in that moment that my lifelong dream of being a teacher fell apart. I went into the financial services industry, and what happened was it kept coming back to me. The possibility of teaching people, even in the financial services industry, kept coming back to me, kept coming back to me, kept coming back to me in various forms. And it was only in 2008, after the passing of my husband, that I realized life was showing me a direction, and I'd been too busy to listen. I had been too busy to listen to the repeated opportunities that had come my way, the doors that were showing open just a little bit, and I didn't step through them. In 2008, after the passing of my husband, I started coaching. I started coaching staff, friends, family members, anybody who needed some help. I retired in 2019, and that is when I went into coaching full-time. But again, I was still in transition and I was still changing. And recently I sat down and I thought about this, and I thought about the journey that I had taken. And I looked back at all of those transitions, all of those chapter changes. Some of them were easy. Some of them were not. And I spent a little bit of time trying to work out which were the easy ones and what made them easy, and which were the difficult ones and what made them difficult. And I came to realize that all the easy ones had one thing in common. All the easy ones had been me in a position where I was standing in confidence, ready to move out of that old chapter and into the new chapter. The ones that I really struggled with were the ones that I wasn't in confidence. I was uncertain. I was scared. I was fearful. And I started delving into that a little bit to understand why it was difficult. And I realized it was one thing. It was all about what I now call the zone of fear. You see, folks, we all have comfort zones in our life, in every area of our life, in our personal lives, in our relationships, in our careers, in our work, in our relationships with our kids, in our relationships with our parents, our siblings. In every area of life, in your spiritual life, in your health, in your money, we have zones of comfort. The question is, do you stand in your zone of comfort, and are you held prisoner in that zone of comfort by what is just on the outside of that zone of comfort? You're standing in your zone of comfort, safe and protected. In order to move out of your zone of comfort, you have to go through a very narrow zone of fear. What happens in the other side of that zone of fear is you move into a zone of learning new skills, learning new abilities, learning of different ways of doing things, learning about the new chapter that you're moving in. And as you move through that learning, you start tipping your toes into the fourth zone, which is the zone of growth. And it's only when you fully step into that zone of growth that in that area of your life becomes amazing, because you tap into the giant within you and you become magnificent. So it is possible in one area of your life where you are struggling to be inside your comfort zone, where it's safe, where it's secure, where nothing is threatening you. But in another area of your life, it is also possible that you're in your fear zone. A third area, you can be in your learning zone, and in a fourth area, you're in your growth zone. So tonight, my challenge to you, have a look at the areas in your life where you're stuck. The areas in your life that are not working, where you want so much more for yourself. Stand in your zone of comfort where it's safe and secure, and understand what is that thin layer of fear that is holding you back. Understand whether that fear is real or whether that fear is in your mind. If it's a fear that is in your mind, make the choice. Make the choice to step through that fear zone. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You can't go around it. You have to go through that fear zone, because on the other side of that fear zone, the rest of your life awaits. A life of learning, a life of growth, a life of connecting to the giant within you, attaching into your magnificence. It's a choice. I encourage you to make the right choice. The right choice to get you to your growth zone. It's a choice to stay in your comfort zone or to move through your fear zone. What do you choose today? Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. Well, so many choices tonight. I choose growth. And it's so true. It's about being aware of what's happening in your, those doors that are partly open, that you're aware of them, that you peer through them in order to make those choices to get a good life and to become magnificent.